And so, can I just touch this to make it go? Alright, I was looking at the effect of school counseling services on academic achievement of at-risk middle school students. Surprise, surprise. Problem statement. During the 2015-2016 school year, we had 68 students fail. So they failed like a core class. That's your math, science, language arts, social studies classes. When a student does that, they fail to promote, especially if they fail more than one. So failing to promote basically means you fail the whole grade. So we had 68 of those students by the beginning of this school year. So a lot of times students are given the option to go to summer school or make up work via Florida Virtual School. And if they don't finish that by the start of the next school year, this year would have been 2016-2017 school year, they are placed back in their classes that they failed. And I didn't put this on there, but what our particular school does in order to kind of remedy that, a lot of times they will double students up in classes. So if it's if it's a seventh grader going into seventh grade, but they failed, say, sixth grade math and science, they'll put them all in seventh grade core classes, take away 2 of their electives and stick them into sixth grade math and science that they failed to make up those core courses and those credits that they need to promote to eventually 8th grade and get out of middle school and go to high school. The purpose of the study is to explore the effect of school counseling services, specifically communication with parents, and checking with students that consist of grade monitoring and academic self-monitoring skill building, affect academic outcomes of at-risk students. For the purposes of this study, I think it's on another slide, and we'll get back to that in a second. Research questions. Does the amount of communication with parents affect if a student passes all of their core courses? And does the number of check-ins with students improve the likelihood of students passing all of their core courses? Basically, my framework is really centered around the Aspen National Model for school counseling. Go School Counselors. It's basically the Bible for school counseling, what a good school counseling program should look like. Usually it touches on, should look like, emphasis on should. It emphasizes a lot of social emotional learning on top of academic and career building and exploration. So functional definitions, and this is what I was going to say, I will swing back around to. At risk in terms of this study, I'm looking at any student that failed 1 or more core classes and was doubled up on their schedule or repeating the grade entirely. Because sometimes we'll have kids that fail 3 classes, in which kids were like, dude, I can't do anything with that, you gotta retake the whole class. So instead of moving on to the 7th grade and taking those 2 classes that they failed, they just repeat the entire 6th grade over again. Student check-ins were about 15-minute check-ins to go over grades in an individual counseling session. So they just kind of came in for a quick hey, how are you doing? Let's pull up focus, take a look at your grades and see what's going on. And then parent contact consists of any form of contact, face-to-face, phone calls, or emails regarding their students' academics. Most of those contacts, which I'll touch on later, consisted of phone and email. Not a lot of parents did come in. So I was thinking the more parent contact and check-ins with a student you had, the more likely they were to pass all their core courses. But we'll talk about that in a second. So, methodology. Students were assigned to teams, and in this particular middle school, teams are basically just sets of teachers. So your 4 core teachers, if you're on a team, you have the same 4 core teachers. So they're randomly assigned to teams like that, and then those teams are assigned to counselors by administration. So we really had no choice in what teams and what students were ours. The students that participated were chosen because of the fact they happened to be on one of my teams, and it just so happened that only one of my teams had students that fell into that at-risk core category. I had 11 students from the same team. Technically, I had 12. But I pulled 1 student from the study because I never got a hold of her parent. So that was a little difficult. So I kind of pulled her out of that. 9 males, 2 females. They had a mean age of 13 years old, a little bit older than 13 years old. 10 students were considered overage, and what that means is just like we kind of came in as a cohort, when you come in K-12, you're tracked, and the year that you come in is the cohort year you kind of go on with, and you're expected to graduate by XYZ date. When you're considered overage, that usually happens when you fail or are held back for some reason or another, and you're over the age of the cohort that we're looking at. So like if they were 13-year-olds and this kid is 15, they'd be considered overage. So that's pretty significant, the fact that 10 of the 11 students that we're talking about have already been held back or failed some other grade, usually in elementary school. I think third grade is the year that if they don't get a 3 or higher on their FSA reading scores, they will get held back, go FSA. Four of the students were Black or African American, 6 Caucasian, 1 Hispanic or Latino. This is just a random aside. 4 of the students that I did look at were serviced by our special education system. So I think 3 had an IEP and 1 had a 504 plan. Do you guys know what those are?
Yep.
Okay, just want to make sure because I don't want to assume people know what these are.
I think they know what it is.
Okay.
So wait, I know what an individual education plan is, but what is a 504
A
plan?
504 plan is usually meant for someone with a physical disability, and lately we've been putting a lot of kids that have been diagnosed with ADHD or anxiety disorders on 504 plans, so it's kind of like the little sister to an IEP,
Okay.
but it also gives those students accommodations like extended test time or permission to get up and walk around the classroom or fidget in their hand. So it's, like I said, it's like the little sister to an IEP. So, data collection analysis. We used fourth quarter report cards from last year, which created the 2015-2016 retention report. Then to track grades, I used Focus throughout the quarter, but ultimately we looked at first quarter report card grades that just came out like 3-4 weeks ago. I tracked the number of times that I met with the students. I tracked the number of times that I also contacted the parents, and if they contacted me, how that kind of went about, whether it was face-to-face, phone call, email. I ran a binary logistic regression. Like Luke, I have my qualms with it, so we'll talk about that in a second. And that was mainly because I had 1 dichotomous dependent variable and 2 continuous independent variables, meaning these 2 were my independent variables. And it just went on. So anyways, so what I found is, in short terms, my counseling services stunk, but that could be for many reasons. Despite what the research shows and our hypothesis, the parent contact and student contact would positively impact student outcomes. This study found that each of these variables did not positively impact student outcomes, but actually hindered them. In terms of parent contact, wait.
Use the arrows in the bottom left.
Then I'm going to move over here. Okay, so in terms of parent contact, with every additional parent contact that I had, the likelihood of a student passing their core classes, was decreased by 6.6%. Yeah. And then in terms of check-ins, the odds of them passing all of their core classes went down by 8.2%. So originally I wanted to look at like which one would be better, but clearly, based on my analyses, neither of them are good. Which is definitely very different from what I found in my literature review and what a lot of the research says. My significant values were all greater than 0.05. So that means none of this matters because none of it's significant. And it also meant that I was very, very likely to commit a type 1 error. Not good. Which kind of made me sad because I was like, maybe I'm doing something with my life, but I wasn't. So there's a lot of limitations, but I kind of keyed in on the fact that my sample size was teeny. It was very teeny. It was small. The length of my check-ins, just due to the fact that I have over 650 students, I wasn't able to get a full kind of like counseling session like I would have liked to, and they my check-ins actually did not teach anything. They were really just like more so I'm monitoring your grades and let's monitor your grades together, but it really wasn't teaching study skills, organizational skills, advocacy skills, like telling a kid, hey, this is how we go up to our teacher and ask, I'm not understanding, can you help explain to me more? So that the lack of structure in the check-ins and really just a lesson plan with that. And then the parent contact was limited only to, I say limited because they could have come in, of course I would have met with them, but none of them did. Email and phone calls. A lot of times I would refer my parents to teachers because a lot of times they have questions for me about what's going on in the classroom. I'm not in the classrooms. So I would refer them to have a parent-teacher conference, and I didn't really know if they followed through with that or not. So there was a lot of limitations. So there's a lot of places we can go from this. A lot. I only put 3 up here. The structured study skills groups, I'm actually moving into that after Thanksgiving break. So these same set of kids I will be starting small groups with. So about an hour a week, I'll be pulling them from classes in groups, 2 groups of 6, or well, technically 6 or 5. And we'll start, I found a curriculum online and we'll start going through changing your mindset about school, and this is how you use your planner. So a lot of study skills like that and advocacy skills. More in-depth parent involvement contact. So inviting a parent in to come in and be like, why don't you have a seat? And me, you, little Jimmy, and his teachers will all sit together. So really getting in on those parent-teacher conferences I'd love to be in. And then also a combo of a structured study skills groups that involve parents as well. And these are just kind of random, like moms and muffins and dads and donuts. So like one morning a month have a session where like my moms come in with their kids and we have muffins and we talk about this is how you track your kids' grades, or this is how you can help your child be successful in school. And then the same thing with dads, just but with donuts. They're just random thoughts. Any other thoughts? I'm sorry my stuff didn't go very well. I'm a little upset that my results were terrible.
I
But whatever.
think, you know, we were kind of in that same boat in that way. Like, I think you have to recognize there's a lot of limitations. That,
Yeah, and then along with Luke, I had my qualms about the whole binary logistic thing because I didn't like that I had to either just say, yes, they passed all their classes, or no, they didn't pass all their classes, and just leave it at that, because there's so much more to it than just